The deep space alarm woke Commander Jake Morrison from his sleep. He rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his uniform, moving quickly through the narrow corridors of the Endeavor. The ship was small, just 30 crew members exploring the outer edges of known space. They had been away from Earth for 8 months. Jake reached the bridge in under 2 minutes. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez was already at her station, her dark eyes focused on the main screen. First Officer Colin Hayes stood beside her, arms crossed over his chest. "What do we have?" Jake asked, sliding into the captain's chair. "Distress signal," Colin said. His voice was tight. 3 hours old. Coming from Grid Section 47, Jake studied the screen. Grid Section 47 was empty space, at least according to their charts. No planets, no stations, nothing. "Are we sure it's real?" Maya nodded. "The signal pattern matches Yaltine merchant frequencies. They're traders, peaceful. They wouldn't fake a distress call." The Yaltine were one of the first alien species humans had met after leaving their solar system. They were friendly, always willing to share information and trade goods. They looked like tall, thin deer with 6 fingers and large black eyes. Jake had met a few during his training on Luna Station. "Good people. How far?" Jake asked. 6 hours at full speed, Colin replied. Jake didn't hesitate. "Take us there. Battle stations, just in case." The Endeavor changed course, its engines pushing harder. The crew moved through their emergency drills, checking weapons and securing stations. They were explorers, not soldiers, but everyone on board had basic combat training. Space was dangerous even before they found aliens. 6 hours later, they found the Yaltine ship. It was drifting in space, dark and silent. The hull showed burn marks and holes where something had torn through the metal. No life signs registered on their sensors. "I don't like this," Colin said quietly. Jake didn't like it either, but they had to check. Someone might still be alive. "Maya, Danny, suit up. We're going over." Danny Sullivan, their chief engineer, was already pulling on his spacesuit. He was a big man with red hair and freckles, always smiling. But he wasn't smiling now. The 3 of them crossed to the Yaltine ship in a small shuttle. The airlock had been forced open from the outside. Jake felt his stomach tighten as they entered the dark corridors. Their helmet lights cut through the shadows. The first body was in the main corridor, a Yaltine male, his body torn apart. Jake had seen death before, during the resource wars back on Earth. But this was different. This was cruel. "Oh, God," Maya whispered. They found 12 more bodies as they searched the ship. Every crew member was dead. But what made Jake's blood run cold were the marks on the walls. Strange symbols carved deep into the metal. They looked like claw marks, but too precise, too deliberate. "These aren't random," Maya said, running her gloved hand near the symbols. "This is writing." "A language? Can you translate it?" Jake asked. She shook her head. "Nothing in our database matches. This is something new." Danny found the ship's black box and pulled the data. They returned to the Endeavor quickly, none of them wanting to stay on that death ship any longer. Back on the bridge, Maya played the Yaltine ship's final recording. The crew watched in silence as the video showed the attack. The Yaltine captain was speaking calmly, trying to negotiate. Then the screen filled with shapes. Large reptilian creatures with red scales and yellow eyes. They moved with terrible grace, their claws extended. The creatures weren't trying to destroy the ship. They were hunting, playing, testing their prey before the kill. The video ended with screams. "What are they?" Colin asked. "I don't know," Maya said. She was pale. "But they're hunters. Professional ones. Look at how they move, how they coordinate." This wasn't about robbery or territory. This was sport. Jake felt cold. "Can we identify their ship? Where they came from?" Danny shook his head. "No trace. They covered their tracks perfectly." "We need to report this to Earth Command," Colin said. "This is beyond our mission parameters." He was right. But Earth Command was 3 weeks away at maximum speed. And something about this situation made Jake uneasy. Why were the hunters still in this area? Why leave the ship intact? "Set course for home," Jake ordered. "Full speed. And I want double watches on all sensors. If anything comes near us, I want to know immediately." The Endeavor turned toward home. The crew tried to return to normal routines, but everyone was on edge. They had all seen the video. They all knew what was out there. 3 days passed quietly. Too quietly. Jake couldn't sleep. He spent most of his time on the bridge, drinking coffee and watching the sensor screens. On the 4th night, everything changed. "Contact," the sensor officer called out. "Something just attached to our hull. Section 7, lower deck. Jake was on his feet instantly. How many? Scanning now. I'm reading multiple signatures. They're inside the ship. 5, maybe 6 contacts. The alarm screamed through the corridors. Jake grabbed the intercom. All hands, we are being boarded. This is not a drill. Arm yourselves and seal all bulkheads. Do not engage unless fired upon. Colin pulled a pistol from the weapons locker and handed one to Jake. What are they? Jake checked his weapon, his hands steady despite the fear in his gut. The hunters. They found us. Maya pulled up thermal imaging on her screen. The shapes moving through the ship were large, bigger than humans. They moved in a coordinated pattern, splitting up to cover more ground. Professional, efficient. They're hurting us, Maya said. Look at their movement pattern. They're pushing us toward the cargo bay. Jake studied the screen. She was right. The hunters were blocking certain corridors, leaving only one path open. They wanted the crew in one place. Easier to kill them all at once, not today, Jake said quietly. He opened the shipwide channel. All hands, do not go to the cargo bay. I repeat, do not go to the cargo bay. Split into teams of 3. Use the maintenance tunnels. Make them chase you. Colin looked at him. Jake, we're not soldiers. We can't fight these things. We're not going to fight them, Jake said. He pulled up a schematic of the ship on the main screen. We're going to hunt them back. Maya understood first. Her eyes widened. You want to turn this into a game of cat and mouse. Exactly. These hunters expect easy prey. They expect us to panic, to run straight into their trap. Instead, we're going to make them work for it. Danny, can you create some false heat signatures? Make it look like there are more of us than there really are. Danny grinned, his fear replaced by determination. I can route power through the heating systems. Create ghost images all over the ship. Do it. Colin, get me a weapons team. 5 people, best shots we have. Maya, I need you to track their movement patterns. Find me a weakness. The crew moved with purpose now. Fear was still there, but it was controlled, focused. Jake watched the thermal screen as the hunters moved deeper into the ship. They were confident, unhurried. They thought they had already won. They were about to learn that humans didn't give up easily. Earth hadn't sent explorers into deep space who broke at the first sign of danger. Every person on this ship had survived training that pushed them to their limits. They had been chosen because they could think under pressure. The hunters had made a mistake. They had boarded a human ship, and humans, Jake thought as he checked his weapon one more time, were very good at survival. They had spent millions of years learning how to stay alive against bigger, stronger predators. Every instinct in their DNA screamed the same message, fight back. All right, Jake said to his crew. Let's show these things what humans are made of. Huntmaster Vexthar moved through the human ship with practiced silence. His thermal camouflage made him nearly invisible, just a shimmer in the air. Behind him, 4 more hunters spread through the corridors. This would be an easy hunt. The humans were soft creatures, weak and slow. He had studied their biology before the hunt. They had no claws, no natural armor, no venom. They were persistence hunters on their homeworld, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. A primitive strategy that wouldn't help them in the confined spaces of a starship. Vexithar had hunted 63 species across the galaxy. Each one now hung as a trophy in his collection chamber. The humans would be number 64. His communicator clicked twice. Hunter Sorval had found the first group of humans hiding in the engineering section. Vexthar changed direction, moving toward the kill. He wanted to observe how the humans died. It would tell him how to hunt the rest. But when he reached engineering, Sorval was alone and confused. They were here, the hunter growled. I saw thermal signatures. 3 humans, but when I entered, nothing. Vexthar scanned the room. The heat signatures were still there, but they weren't moving. They weren't breathing. Decoys, he said. The humans are trying to trick us. Sorval snarled in frustration. Where are they? That's when the lights went out. The entire ship plunged into darkness. Vexthar's eyes adjusted quickly, his night vision activating. But something was wrong. The thermal camouflage that made him invisible also meant he couldn't see his fellow hunters. They were all ghosts in the dark. Clever, Vexthar admitted. The humans had removed their advantage. Now both species were blind. His communicator clicked urgently, Hunter Krevoth's signal. Then it went dead. Vexthar moved quickly toward the last known position. He found Krevoth in a maintenance corridor, unconscious but alive. Something had hit him from behind with enough force to crack his skull ridge. The human who did this was long gone. First blood to the prey, Vexthar muttered. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Across the ship, Jake Morrison crouched in a ventilation shaft with Lisa Grant, the ship's security officer. Lisa was a former Marine, short and muscular with bright green eyes. She held her weapon steady, watching the thermal scope. "One down," she whispered. "4 to go," Jake nodded. The plan was working. Instead of grouping together like scared prey, they had split into hunter-killer teams. Each team had one job: to eliminate a single target and disappear. It was guerrilla warfare, something humans had perfected over thousands of years of conflict. "Target moving past Section 12. Maya's voice came through their earpieces. She was still on the bridge, tracking the aliens through every sensor the ship had. "Danny's ghost signatures are pulling 2 of them toward the cargo bay." "Copy that," Jake whispered. He tapped Lisa's shoulder and pointed down the corridor. "Time to move." They dropped from the vent silently and ran in the opposite direction. The alien they had knocked out would wake up soon. They needed to be somewhere else when that happened. In the cargo bay, Danny Sullivan waited in the darkness. He had set up a beautiful trap. Thermal signatures glowed from behind crates, making it look like a dozen humans were hiding there. He was actually alone, tucked inside a storage locker with a remote control in his hand. 2 hunters entered the bay, their claws extended. They moved toward the heat signatures, confident. Danny waited until they were in the perfect position. Then he pressed the button. The cargo containers he had spent 2 hours rigging exploded outward. Not with fire, the ship's safety systems wouldn't allow that, but with compressed air and foam, the emergency fire suppression system. The 2 hunters disappeared under a mountain of white foam that hardened on contact with air. Danny slipped out of his locker and ran. Behind him, he could hear the hunters roaring in anger as they struggled to free themselves. They would get loose eventually, but it would take time. Time the humans needed. Maya tracked everything from the bridge, her fingers flying across her console. She was rerouting power, creating electrical dead zones that forced the hunters into specific corridors. She was herding them, the same way they had tried to herd the humans. "One hunter heading toward the medical bay," she reported. "Colin, he's coming your way." Colin Hayes waited in the medical bay with 2 other crew members. They had prepared for this. The hunter entered cautiously, his sensors telling him humans were inside. What his sensors didn't tell him was that the entire room was now supercharged with electricity. Colin hit the switch. Every metal surface in the medical bay became a conductor. The hunter screamed as electricity coursed through his body. It wasn't enough to kill him. His species was tough, but it was enough to hurt, enough to make him retreat. The hunter fled the medical bay smoking and angry. Colin and his team barricaded the door behind him. One more hunter neutralized, at least temporarily. Vexthar realized the situation was deteriorating. His hunters were scattered, injured, confused. The humans were fighting back with tactics he had never encountered. They didn't stand and fight. They struck and vanished again and again. He gathered his remaining hunters for a tactical meeting. "The prey is more dangerous than expected," he admitted. "We need to change strategy. Stay together. Move as one unit." But staying together meant moving slower, and the humans used every second. Lisa Grant led her team through the maintenance tunnels, always moving, always one step ahead. She had grown up hunting deer in the forests of Montana. Her father had taught her patience, how to track, how to think like her prey. These skills translated perfectly to hunting aliens in a starship. "They're grouping up," Maya warned. "All 4 remaining hunters are together now, moving toward your position." "Good," Lisa said. "That's exactly what we want." Jake understood her plan immediately. "Lisa, are you sure?" "Trust me, Commander. I know what I'm doing." She led the hunters on a chase through the ship. They could see her on their sensors, always just out of reach. She would appear at the end of a corridor, fire a few shots, then disappear. The hunters followed, their pride wounded by this persistent prey. Lisa led them to the airlock section. This was the dangerous part. She stood in the open, weapon raised, facing the 4 hunters. They surrounded her, thinking they had finally cornered their prey. Vexthar approached slowly. "You fought well, human. But the hunt ends now," Lisa smiled. "You're right. It does." She pressed the button on the remote in her left hand. The floor beneath the hunters wasn't floor at all. It was the outer airlock door, covered with a thin layer of metal plating. The plating gave way and the hunters fell into the airlock chamber. Lisa jumped backward as Jake sealed the inner door. The hunters were trapped. Should we space them? Colin asked, his hand on the outer door controls. Jake shook his head. No, we're not killers. Not unless we have to be. He activated the intercom to the airlock. Vexthar, can you hear me? The Huntmaster's voice came back, filled with rage and confusion. You should kill us, human. We would kill you. I know, Jake said. But that's the difference between us. You hunt for sport. We fight to survive. There's a difference. He paused. Your ship is still attached to our hull. Take your people and leave. Tell your friends that humans aren't prey. They won't believe me, Vexthar said. Then they'll learn the hard way, Jake replied. He opened the outer door just enough for the hunters to return to their ship. The crew of the Endeavor watched as the alien vessel detached and disappeared into deep space. They had won. Nobody was dead, not even the aliens, but everyone was exhausted. Maya pulled up the translation software she had been running during the fight. Commander, I got a partial translation of those symbols we found on the Yaltine ship. What do they say? Jake asked. It's a claim marker. The hunters carved their names on their kills, like a signature. She pulled up more data, but there's something else. I found a frequency in their communications. I think I can trace where they came from. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. Show me. The star map appeared on the main screen, a location deep in unexplored space far from Earth. That's their home system, Maya said. Or at least where their signals are coming from. Colin stared at the map. There could be thousands of them. Maybe millions. We need to warn Earth, Jake said. These hunters know about us now. They know where we come from. And I don't think they're going to give up after one defeat. Lisa joined them on the bridge, still breathing hard from the fight. Sir, with respect, they should give up. We beat them with 30 people in a cargo ship. What do they think will happen if they attack Earth? Jake wished he shared her confidence, but he had seen something in Vexithar's eyes during their final confrontation. Not just anger, curiosity, interest. The hunters had expected easy prey and found worthy opponents instead. They're going to come back, Jake said quietly. Not for revenge. For the challenge. We just became the most interesting hunt in the galaxy. Danny started calculating the journey home. 3 weeks at maximum speed. Maybe less if we push the engines. Push them, Jake ordered. Earth needs to know what's coming. The Endeavor jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward home. Behind them, in the depths of space, Vexthar's ship was already transmitting its report to the Krethax Dominion. The message was simple but terrifying. We have found a species that fights back. They call themselves humans. The Endeavor arrived at Earth 3 weeks later. Jake Morrison had barely slept during the journey home. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those yellow reptilian eyes staring at him through the darkness. The hunters were coming. He knew it in his bones. Admiral Kate Bishop met them at Luna Station, the massive orbital platform that served as Earth's military headquarters. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded fleets during the resource wars, back when humans were still fighting each other over water and oil. Commander Morrison, she said, shaking his hand firmly. Your report made quite an impression. Half the council thinks you're exaggerating. I wish I was, Admiral, Jake replied. He handed her a data chip. Everything is on there. Video recordings, sensor data, translation attempts. These hunters are real and they're dangerous. Kate plugged the chip into her tablet and watched the footage in silence. When it finished, her expression was grim. How long do we have? I don't know. Could be months, could be weeks. But they're coming. She looked out the station window at Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. We've been in space for less than a century. We've barely explored our own solar system. We're not ready for a war. No one's ever ready for war, Admiral, Jake said. But that doesn't mean we can't fight. Kate smiled slightly. I like you, Morrison. You remind me of myself 30 years ago. She turned to face him fully. I'm promoting you to captain. You'll command our new warship, the Valiant. It's still under construction, but we can have it operational in 2 months. A warship? Jake said. We have warships now? We do as of yesterday. The Council approved emergency military expansion. If these hunters want to fight, we'll give them one. She pulled up a schematic on her tablet. The Valiant is based on the Endeavor's design, but bigger, faster, and heavily armed. She'll be humanity's first real warship. Jake studied the design. It was impressive, but it was still just one ship. Admiral, I saw how these hunters operate. They're professional killers. They've been doing this for thousands of years. One ship won't be enough. Then we'll build more, Kate said. Every shipyard in the solar system is being converted to military production. We're also weaponizing all our civilian stations and satellites, and I want you to help train our people in the tactics you used. That guerrilla warfare approach, the traps, the psychological warfare. Teach our soldiers how to fight like you fought. Over the next 2 months, Earth transformed itself. The moon became a massive weapons platform, its entire surface covered with railguns and missile batteries. Mars colonies sent resources. Every asteroid mining station was retrofitted with weapons. Humanity was preparing for war. Maya Rodriguez worked in a laboratory deep under Luna's surface, analyzing every bit of data they had collected about the Krethax. She had a team of scientists helping her now, all trying to understand their enemy. Their biology is fascinating, she told Jake during one of his visits. Their ambush predators evolved on a high-gravity world. That's why they're so strong and fast. But it's also a weakness. What do you mean? Jake asked. She pulled up a holographic display of a Krethax body. They're built for short bursts of extreme activity. Sprinting, pouncing, killing quickly. But they can't sustain that activity for long periods. Their muscles produce too much lactic acid. They need rest periods between hunts. So they're sprinters, not marathon runners, Jake said. Exactly. And humans are marathon runners. We evolved as persistence hunters. We can keep going long after they're exhausted. Maya smiled. We already proved it on the Endeavor. We outlasted them. Danny Sullivan was helping design the Valiant systems. He had learned a lot from the Endeavor encounter about what worked and what didn't. The new ship would have redundant power systems, hidden maintenance tunnels large enough for tactical movement, and blast doors that could be remotely controlled from multiple locations. Basically, I'm designing the ship to be fought from the inside, he explained to Jake. If they board us, we can turn the entire ship into a weapon. Lisa Grant was training Earth's first hunter-killer teams. She had 500 volunteers, men and women from every military branch. They learned how to move silently, how to set traps, how to think like predators. Lisa was tough on them, pushing them past their limits. These aliens think they're the galaxy's greatest hunters, she told her trainees. They're about to learn that humans invented hunting. We were killing mammoths with pointed sticks while they were still in caves. We survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We're still here because we're the most stubborn, persistent, adaptable species that ever lived. And we're going to teach these lizards what that means. 2 months after the Endeavor returned, the Krethax arrived. Their fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. 40 ships, each one larger than any human vessel. Admiral Bishop watched them on the tactical display, her face calm despite the size of the enemy force. Send them our greeting, she ordered. A communication channel opened. On the screen appeared a massive Krethax female, her scales dark red with patterns of white. She wore armor decorated with bones and claws from dozens of different species. I am High Huntress Zarkoth, she said. Her voice was deep and resonant. You are the humans, the species that resisted my hunters. You have earned the honor of being hunted by the full fleet. Kate Bishop stood before the camera, her uniform crisp and perfect. I am Admiral Kate Bishop of Earth Defense Command. You are not welcome in this system. Leave now or we will defend ourselves. Zarkoth laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. You cannot defend yourselves, human. We are the Krethax Dominion. We have hunted for 3,000 years across 100 worlds. We have claimed 63 species as trophies. You will be the 64th. Then come and try, Kate said coldly. But I warn you, humans don't go down easy. The channel closed. Kate turned to her command staff. All stations battle ready. Send the signal to Captain Morrison. It's time. Jake stood on the bridge of the Valiant watching the Krethax fleet approach. His crew was at their stations, faces tense but determined. Colin was his first officer again. Maya was in the science station. Danny was in engineering. Lisa commanded the Marine detachment. 40 ships, Colin said quietly. We're outnumbered pretty badly, sir. Numbers don't mean everything, Jake replied. He opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Today we face an enemy that thinks we're prey. They think because they're stronger and faster, they've already won. But they don't understand humans. They don't know that we've survived every predator that ever hunted us. They don't know that we fought wars against each other for 10,000 years. They don't know that when we're pushed to the edge, we don't break. We push back harder. He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. So today we show them what humans can do. We show them that we're not prey. We're the most dangerous thing in this galaxy, because we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for our families, our homes, our future, and there's nothing more dangerous than a human protecting what they love. The crew erupted in cheers. Jake smiled grimly and turned to his weapons officer. Target their lead ship. All railguns fire at will. The battle began. The Krethax expected traditional space combat. Ship-to-ship exchanges at long range, testing shields and armor. Instead, the human ships accelerated directly at them at full speed. It looked like a suicidal charge. They're panicking, Zarkoth said, watching the humans approach. This will be over quickly. But the humans weren't panicking. They were using a tactic as old as humanity itself. The charge. The all-out assault that had won battles from ancient times to the modern age. Speed and aggression overwhelming careful planning. The Valiant raced past a Krethax destroyer, its railguns firing continuously. Magnetic accelerators hurled chunks of metal at a significant fraction of light speed. The Krethax shields held, but barely. Before the destroyer could return fire, the Valiant was past, already engaging another target. They're too fast, one of Zarkoth's officers reported. We can't track them. Human ships darted between the larger Krethax vessels like wolves attacking elk. They didn't try to destroy the ships. They targeted specific systems, weapons, engines, sensors. Death by 1,000 cuts. Admiral Bishop coordinated the defense from Luna Station. Wave 2, deploy now. From hidden positions behind the moon, behind Mars, behind dozens of asteroids, more ships appeared. Not warships, civilian vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, passenger liners. Each one had been retrofitted with weapons and piloted by volunteers. The civilian ships launched themselves at the Krethax fleet in what looked like kamikaze runs. But at the last second, they deployed their cargo. Thousands of small drones, each one carrying a magnetic clamp and a small explosive charge. The drones swarmed the Krethax ships, attaching to their hulls. What are these? Zarkoth demanded. Then the drones exploded. Not big explosions. Just enough to breach the hull in thousands of tiny places. The Krethax ships vented atmosphere. Emergency systems scrambled to seal the leaks, but there were too many. Several Krethax ships began boarding human vessels, thinking close combat would favor them. They learned quickly that humans had prepared for this. Every human ship became a death trap. Hidden turrets. Electrified corridors. The battle raged for 6 hours. The space around Earth became a graveyard of burning ships, both human and Krethax. But the humans kept coming. Every time the Krethax destroyed a ship, 2 more appeared to take its place. Civilian volunteers flying mining vessels, retired military and old patrol boats, scientists in research ships with improvised weapons. High Huntress Zarkoth had never seen anything like it. These humans had no sense of self-preservation. They threw themselves at her fleet again and again, trading their lives for damage. It wasn't rational. It wasn't tactical. It was pure, desperate courage. Pull back to defensive formation, she ordered. Regroup at the asteroid belt. But the humans pursued. Captain Jake Morrison led the chase in the Valiant, his ship's armor scorched and dented, but still fighting. Don't let them rest, he ordered. Keep the pressure on. Admiral Bishop watched from Luna Station, coordinating the defense. They had lost 30 ships, nearly a quarter of their fleet. But the Krethax had lost 12, almost a third of theirs. The numbers were in humanity's favor now. Admiral, her communication officer said, we're receiving a message from the Krethax flagship. The High Huntress wants to talk. Kate smiled without humor. Put her through. Zarkoth's face appeared on screen. She looked tired, her scales dull. Admiral Bishop, I underestimated your species. You fight with unexpected ferocity. Is this a surrender? Kate asked. No, Zarkoth said. This is an acknowledgement. You are worthy prey, the most worthy we have ever encountered. For that reason, I am issuing a challenge. I will come to your planet's surface. If your warriors can kill me in honorable combat, my fleet will withdraw. If I kill them, your planet becomes our hunting ground. Do you accept? Kate considered. It could be a trick, but she didn't think so. There was something in the Krethax's voice, a note of respect. These hunters had a code, twisted as it was. Where? I will leave the choice to you, Zarkoth said. Select your hunting ground. Kate thought for a moment, then made her decision. Denver, Colorado. In 3 days. That gives us time to evacuate the civilians. Agreed, Zarkoth said. The communication ended. Jake Morrison was on the bridge of the Valiant when he received the message. "She wants to do what?" he said in disbelief. "Single combat," Admiral Bishop explained. "Her against our best fighters. She's gambling that she can kill enough of us to make the rest surrender." "It's a trap," Colin said immediately. "Maybe," Kate agreed. "But I don't think so. I've been studying what we know about Krethax culture. Honor matters to them. The hunt matters. This is how they settle disputes. So we evacuate Denver and what? Wait for her to show up?" Jake asked. "Not exactly," Kate said. A map of Denver appeared on screen. "We evacuate the civilians, yes. But then we turn the entire city into one big trap. The High Huntress wants a hunt. We'll give her one she'll never forget." Over the next 3 days, Denver transformed. 2 million people evacuated to the surrounding mountains. The military moved in, filling the empty city with surprises. Every building was rigged with sensors and cameras. Sniper positions were established on rooftops. Underground tunnels were reinforced as escape routes. The entire city became a hunting ground designed by humans. Jake volunteered to be one of the hunters. So did Lisa Grant, Maya Rodriguez, and Danny Sullivan. Admiral Bishop tried to stop them, but Jake was firm. "We started this, Admiral. We should finish it," Kate finally agreed. "You'll have 50 volunteers total. Former military, current soldiers, anyone who wants to face the High Huntress. Pick your people carefully." Jake selected his team. Men and women from every background. Some were soldiers. Some were hunters who grew up tracking elk in the Rockies. Some were urban warfare specialists who had fought in the resource wars. All of them understood what was at stake. High Huntress Zarkoth descended to Earth on the morning of the 3rd day. She brought with her only her personal guard, 20 elite hunters. They landed in the center of Denver, in what used to be the Civic Center Park. She looked around at the empty city and smiled. "A good hunting ground," she said. "Your species shows wisdom." She activated her communicator, broadcasting to everyone watching from orbit in the surrounding mountains. "I am High Huntress Zarkoth, champion of the Dominion, slayer of 63 species. I have come to claim my trophy. Let your warriors face me." Jake Morrison stepped out from behind a building, his rifle in his hands. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. We met before, in a way. Your huntmaster Vexthar tried to kill my crew. We sent him home with his tail between his legs." Zarkoth laughed. "Vexthar recommended we avoid your species. I thought him a coward. Now I see he was simply unprepared. But I am not Vexthar. I am the greatest hunter alive." "We'll see about that," Jake said. He raised his rifle and fired. The battle for Denver began. Zarkoth and her guards scattered as the shot echoed through the streets. Their camouflage activated, making them shimmer and fade. But the humans had prepared for that. Thermal sensors tracked every heat signature. Motion detectors covered every street. The Krethax could hide from eyes, but they couldn't hide from technology. Jake and his team moved through the city in coordinated groups. They used the buildings for cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Every time the Krethax thought they had cornered a human, the human vanished into a pre-planned escape route. Lisa Grant led a team through the underground tunnels. She had spent 3 days memorizing every route, every junction. She knew this battlefield better than she knew her own home. When Krethax guards tried to follow her team underground, they found themselves lost in a maze. Lisa's team picked them off one by one. Danny Sullivan had rigged entire buildings to collapse at the push of a button. When 5 Krethax hunters gathered in an intersection, Danny brought down 3 buildings around them. Not to crush them, the Krethax were too tough for that, but to trap them, bury them in rubble that would take hours to dig through. Maya Rodriguez used her scientific knowledge to create traps the Krethax had never seen. Chemical smoke that blocked their thermal vision, sonic emitters that disrupted their communication, holographic projections that made one human look like 10. Every trick she could think of, she deployed. The hunt lasted 3 days. The Krethax were stronger, faster, tougher. But the humans were smarter, more creative, and they never gave up. Every time a human fell, 2 more took their place. The volunteers from the mountains came down in waves, keeping the pressure constant. Zarkoth found herself injured and exhausted. She had killed 17 humans, more than any other hunt in her long career. But there were always more. They kept coming, relentless as a tide. She began to understand why Vexithar had been afraid. On the 3rd day, she faced Jake Morrison in the ruins of what used to be a stadium. Her armor was cracked. Her weapons were damaged. She was bleeding from a dozen wounds. Jake wasn't much better. His left arm was broken. His ribs were cracked. But he still stood, rifle pointed at her chest. "You could have killed me a dozen times," Zarkoth said. "Your snipers have clear shots. Your soldiers surround us. Why do you still fight me face to face?" "Because you deserve it," Jake said. "You came here for honorable combat. We're giving it to you, but make no mistake. If you don't surrender now, I will kill you." Zarkoth looked at him with something like respect. "You are truly a hunter, Jake Morrison. Your species deserves to survive, to thrive. I was wrong to think you were prey." She dropped her weapons. "I yield. The hunt is over." Jake kept his rifle trained on her. "Call off your fleet. Leave our system. Never come back." "I will do more than that," Zarkoth said. She activated her communicator, speaking to her entire fleet. "This is High Huntress Zarkoth. I have been defeated in honorable combat. The humans are not prey. They are hunters, worthy of respect. I order the fleet to withdraw from this system immediately. From this day forward, Earth and humanity are under the protection of the Dominion. Any who hunt them will answer to me." The Krethax fleet began to retreat. Jake lowered his rifle slowly, not quite believing it was over. Lisa appeared from the shadows, her weapon ready. "Sir, should we trust her?" "I don't know," Jake admitted. "But I don't think we have much choice." Medical teams moved in to treat the wounded, both human and Krethax. The siege of Denver was over. Humanity had won. But Jake knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Admiral Bishop arrived by helicopter an hour later. She found Jake sitting on a pile of rubble, his arm in a sling, watching as the Krethax were loaded onto transport ships. "You did it," she said. "You saved Earth." "We all did," Jake said. "Every person who fought. Every volunteer who risked their lives. That's what saved us. Not tactics or weapons, just pure human stubbornness." Kate sat down beside him. "The other species in the galaxy are going to hear about this. How humanity defeated the Krethax Dominion." "Good," Jake said. "Let them hear. Let them know that humans aren't easy prey. That if you threaten us, we fight back with everything we have." He looked up at the sky where the Krethax fleet was disappearing into the distance. "But I have a feeling this isn't over. We've proven we can fight. Now we need to prove we can lead." 6 months passed after the Battle of Denver. Earth was recovering, rebuilding what had been damaged in the conflict. But the galaxy had changed. Word spread quickly through the alien civilizations about the species that had defeated the Krethax Dominion. Some species were curious. Some were afraid. All of them wanted to know more about humans. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, now fully repaired and upgraded. He had a new mission today. The Galactic Council, a loose organization of peaceful species, had invited humanity to attend their assembly. It was the first time Earth would meet with the wider galactic community. "Are you nervous?" Maya Rodriguez asked. She was his science officer permanently now, having turned down 3 research positions to stay on the Valiant. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "Fighting hunters was one thing. Politics is something else entirely." The Valiant arrived at the Council Station, a massive structure floating in neutral space. It looked like a giant wheel slowly rotating. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species were docked there. Ambassador Claire Foster met Jake at the airlock. She was a former diplomat who had negotiated peace treaties during the resource wars. If anyone could handle first contact with multiple alien species, it was her. She was a small woman with red hair and a sharp mind. "Captain Morrison," she said, shaking his hand. "Thank you for the escort. I understand you've been invited to attend the session as well." "Admiral Bishop thought it would be good to have someone who actually fought the Krethax," Jake said. "In case they have questions." "They'll have questions," Claire said. "The galaxy is very interested in how we survived." The council chamber was enormous. Representatives from 40 different species sat in a circular arrangement. Jake recognized a few species from the database Earth had compiled. The tall thin Yaltine, the crystalline Shardix, the floating gas form Ariels, and in the back, wearing simple robes instead of armor, sat Vexthar. The former Huntmaster looked different, calmer, less aggressive. When he saw Jake, he inclined his head in a gesture of respect. The council speaker, a Yaltine elder named Torvex, called the session to order. "We are honored to welcome humanity to this assembly. Your species has accomplished something remarkable. You have transformed the Krethax from hunters into guardians. Please share with us how this was achieved. Claire stood to speak, but Jake touched her arm. May I? He asked quietly. She nodded and sat down. Jake walked to the center of the chamber, very aware that hundreds of alien eyes were watching him. I'm not a diplomat, he started. I'm a soldier. So I'll tell you the truth, simple and direct. We survived the Krethax because we refused to be victims. Because every human on Earth in our entire system decided that surrender wasn't an option. Because we remembered who we are. He paused, looking around the chamber. Humans evolved as both predator and prey. We know what it's like to be hunted. We've spent our entire history fighting things bigger, stronger, and meaner than us. Saber-toothed cats, cave bears, ice ages, diseases, and each other. We survived all of it by being stubborn, creative, and willing to do whatever it takes. A crystalline representative chimed in its musical language. The translator converted it to words. But the Krethax are the most dangerous hunters in known space. How did you defeat them? We didn't defeat them, Jake said. We taught them. We showed them that hunting for sport is empty. That real strength comes from protecting others, not killing them. And we did that by being better hunters than they were. Bexathar stood up. The chamber fell silent. Captain Morrison speaks truth. I was there for the first encounter. I led the hunters who boarded his ship. We expected easy prey. We found warriors who fought with intelligence and honor. They could have killed us. Instead, they let us live and sent us home with a message. He looked around the chamber. Humans understand something we Krethax forgot over our centuries of dominance. They understand that the greatest hunters know when not to hunt, that mercy is not weakness, that protecting life is more honorable than taking it. Another representative spoke up, this one from a species Jake didn't recognize. What about High Huntress Zarkoth, the most feared hunter in Dominion history? What happened to her? She's here, a voice said from the entrance. Everyone turned. Zarkoth entered the chamber, but she wasn't wearing her armor of bones and trophies. She wore simple clothing, and beside her walked a human woman in military uniform. It was Lisa Grant, High Huntress, Torvik said, surprised. You honor us with your presence. I am no longer High Huntress, Zarkoth said. I am simply Zarkoth, teacher and guardian. After my defeat, I asked Captain Morrison if I could learn more about human methods. He assigned Lieutenant Grant to instruct me. Lisa stepped forward. The High Huntress, former High Huntress, has been training with our special forces for the past 6 months. She's learning human tactics, human ethics, and human philosophy, and she's teaching us about Krethax culture in return. Why? Someone asked. Why help your former enemy? Jake answered. Because enemies are just people you haven't made peace with yet. The Krethax hunted us because that's all they knew. Now they're learning something new, and we're learning from them too. Their tracking skills, their stealth techniques, their understanding of different environments. We're making each other better. Zarkoth spoke, her voice carrying through the chamber. When I landed on Earth, I expected to claim the greatest trophy of my career. Instead, I found something more valuable. A purpose. Humans showed me that strength without wisdom is meaningless. That the true measure of a warrior is not how many they kill, but how many they save. She gestured to the assembled species. The Krethax Dominion is changing. We are no longer hunters of sapient species. We have redirected our skills toward protection and exploration. We guard the endangered species of the galaxy. We track criminals and slavers. We hunt those who prey on the weak. And we do this because humans taught us that this is the path of true honor. The chamber erupted in discussion. Jake returned to his seat next to Claire, who was smiling. That was quite a speech, Captain. I just told them the truth, Jake said. Over the next few hours, the Council discussed humanity's role in the galaxy. Some species were eager to establish trade and diplomatic relations. Others were cautious, worried about human military capabilities. But all of them agreed that humanity deserved a seat on the Council. When the session ended, Jake found himself approached by dozens of representatives. They all had questions. How did humans develop their tactics? What other skills did they possess? Would Earth be willing to help train their own security forces? Danny Sullivan, who had come along as part of the delegation, was surrounded by engineers wanting to know about human technology. Maya was in deep discussion with alien scientists about comparative biology. Even Colin Hayes, usually quiet and reserved, was negotiating trade agreements. As Jake watched his crew interact with the galaxy, he felt a sense of pride. Humanity had come so far in such a short time. From a single planet to members of a galactic community, from the hunted to the teachers. Vexthar approached him as the crowd thinned. "Captain Morrison, may I speak with you?" "Of course," Jake said. The former huntmaster looked uncomfortable. "I must apologize. I underestimated your species badly. I thought you were weak prey. I was wrong." "You were doing what you were taught," Jake said. "No apology needed. But I have a question. Why did you stay? Why not return to Krathak space?" "Because I am no longer welcome there," Vexthar said. "I was the first to lose to a prey species. Many in the Dominion see me as a coward and a failure. But High Huntress Zarkoth defended me. She said I was the bravest because I was willing to admit I was wrong." He looked at Jake with his yellow eyes. "I wish to stay here at the council station, to serve as a liaison between Krethaks and humans, to help others learn what I learned. If you will have me." Jake smiled. "Welcome to the team, Vexthar." 3 months later, the Galactic Council established the first multi-species peacekeeping force. It was a joint operation combining human tactical knowledge, Krethak's tracking skills, Yaltine diplomatic abilities, and technology from a dozen other species. Captain Jake Morrison was asked to lead it. The first mission was to a border system where slavers had been raiding colony worlds. The peacekeeping force arrived to find the slavers well-armed and confident. They had operated in this region for years without interference, but they had never faced humans before. And they definitely had never faced humans working alongside reformed Krethak's hunters. The slaver base was liberated in 3 days. Not a single hostage was harmed. The slavers were captured and handed over to local authorities. The rescued people, members of 5 different species, looked at their rescuers with awe and gratitude. One young Yaltine child approached Jake timidly. "Are you really human?" she asked through a translator. "I am," Jake said, kneeling down to her level. "My parents told me humans are the scariest species in the galaxy," she said. "But you saved us." "You're not scary," Jake smiled. "We're only scary to people who hurt others. To people who need help, we're friends." The child thought about this, then hugged him. Jake hugged her back, feeling a lump in his throat. This was why they fought. This was why it all mattered. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Bishop watched reports of the peacekeeping force's success.